Man, what is up, guys? What is going on? It's your boy Dave, the Roof Poppy, your favorite roofer's favorite roofer. And I've got a fantastic guest for you today. We have a guy on the show today that has a really fucking good understanding, right, of what it means to take all of your skill sets and try and figure out the most appropriate place for you to apply extreme fucking pressure and to get the results that you want. My guest today is a man that has learned to encapsulate the essence of the fucking phrase "go all in." My man, Tom Beighley. Tom, welcome to the show. How are you, dude? What is going on?
Dude, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I think we're going to go over a lot of cool stuff today. So
I feel like it, man. Just having the conversation we had before the show, brother. I feel like it's going to be a good little wrap here. I want to help everybody else get to know you real quick without diving into too much of what you do as a business. But Tom, the qualifications that you have in building SOPs and helping create systems and processes inside of companies, it starts, that shit has to be taught, right? That's not something that people just wake up one day and say, oh, okay, I'm going to create a program that does this shit. Where did you learn that? Where did it start for you?
really, I think that my first immersion into that, of course, is I started as a software developer when I was 16. And so that was my first immersion into what does this corporate organization stuff look like, the do's and don'ts and things like that. Then joined the Marine Corps when I was 20, had great habits and great ethos beat into me, some literally, some not so much. And then I joined a consulting firm, one of the top two in the world, as a matter of fact, and worked my way up from the mailroom all the way into being an associate leading teams of supporting organizations of 1,500 people or more, managing liability budgets in the billions.
From the fucking mailroom.
Yeah, buddy.
Started in the fucking mailroom.
Started in the mail. Not only that, we have a lot of talk about all these people and entrepreneurs and stuff, like going and getting it. Man, before all this, being an entrepreneur was cool stuff. I was getting my ass up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to the gym, working out, getting to work early so that I could get off work early, go home, run my 7 miles a day, and then go to school till 10 at night, come home, rinse and repeat. Did that shit for 5 years.
Why in the fuck? Okay, so there's somebody's going to jump up and say, Tom, why in the fuck would you do that? I'm curious. What was going on in your life at the time that was the schedule that you felt to live?
Well, first and foremost, when you have a goal, you don't make excuses, you don't make exceptions. So I had a goal of getting my degree. I needed to survive along the way. And I got out of the Corps with a sort of a mindset of, and this may lose a few people, but solutions architecture. So I'm really good at figuring out how to solve problems. And during my time in that mailroom moving up, I was able to see how SOPs for large organizations were utilized. And it wasn't until much later that I realized how all that stuff really came together. But essentially, the why to that is because that's what I set my mind to do, and I did it. There's coming out of the Corps, you just do what needs to be done. And I had to work. I wanted to maintain my fitness, and I wanted to get a degree. So to me, I wanted to do that, and it was going to suck. So I decided to put my head down and do it. And march through it. And through the process, I figured out that I don't ever want to work for somebody else ever again in my life. So got all that skills together. And then I went into, that area of, okay, let's figure out what it's going to take to do this.
So you go through in the Marine Corps. Tell me about that. What did you do in the Marine Corps? Where did you learn all of these? Right. That's the one phrase my buddies that, have been in the Marine Corps, their really common phrase is indoctrination. Right. I hear that word. They say it a long time. The shit is beat. It's pushed. It's poured. It's seeped into every part of their life. My grandfather, when he left the Marine Corps, 47 years, got a job as a checkout guy at HEB in the 70s. In the 70s, and he used to always brag about how sharp his pencils were at his register every day, right? And like his shit was just always squared away. He had everything where he knew it was, and it was efficient. And that that we don't fucking get taught that in school. You know what I mean? That's not something that's celebrated in fucking society. That's something that has to be indoctrinated, right? Poured into somebody. Is that what your experience was like with the Marine Corps?
100%. The main thing I think I like to add on that is yes. I remember having a conversation with the entire squadron, and I was not a squadron, but my platoon in boot camp, right? And my senior drill instructor was sitting down and explaining some stuff to us. And one of the guys raised their hand and they said, why does the Marine Corps brainwash you? And the senior drill instructor stepped back and he goes, well, I guess we don't brainwash you. We just teach you how to think. And then he was like, well, actually, I guess that's brainwashing. So, and so what was funny about it is I don't see it as like the Marine Corps installed a bunch of ways of doing things. I think that all of us inherently, whether we grow up in bad homes, good homes, whatever, society as a whole shapes us to an extent. We have our left and right lateral limits, if we want to use military jargon. But I think that what the Corps did is it focused on the habits and the traits of a high-performing individual. And those specific attributes may change from environment to environment, depending on whether you're in special forces to some extent, or you're not in the military and you do something else. I think that what I learned from that was that, aggregate good habits equal good outcomes. And being proactive, it just puts you in a position to utilize all the stuff that they teach you. And so it wasn't so much, I think, indoctrination as much as it was, immersing us in this environment and then teaching us how to thrive in that environment. And so maybe a little indoctrination, maybe a little bit of repetition, but together what it did is it solidified a big bag of good habits and I think I would say a healthy moral compass.
So what part of that, with like all that shit, right? Everything that you take from your time and your experience in the Marine Corps into business, what part of that stuff, because there's probably other, service veterans watching the show. I know in the roofing industry, there's quite a bunch of them. What was it with that clicked in your head that you said, oh, fuck, there's a correlation between this, and I can take this skill and apply it over here in something that I didn't think was relevant to my experience, and then use it to fucking kick ass and take names? Like, what was it that clicked for you?
Well, I think number one, I realized that I was really good at problem solving. But number two, it was more so that I wasn't afraid to try something. I wasn't afraid to fail, because along the way, you fail a ton in the Corps or in the military for that matter. I mean, it's almost designed to be a failure-based experience for the first 6 months you're in. So you kind of get over the fact of, okay, things might not work out the way I want, but it's not the end of the world. And so that kind of gave me the confidence. Maybe you can call it the cojones, since we're San Antonio guys.
Right.
But like in reality, I feel like, and I look back on it a little bit differently now. I look back on it when I'm looking at new entrepreneurs and some of the nonprofit stuff that I'm getting into. I think that people coming out of the military just have all the right attributes of a successful entrepreneur. They're reliable, they're punctual, they follow through on their word, they do what they say they're going to do, essentially. They're teachable, they're coachable, they're not above reproach, or they are above reproach, but they're not above feedback, criticism, things like that. And I also I have this thing. I told my mom when I was like 5, and I continued to tell her through my whole life. I said, Mom, there's something I'm supposed to do in life. There's something big I'm supposed to do in life. So more so than the military, that's what drove me. It was the curiosity and the knowledge that if I am to do something big, then I'm going to need to try a lot of things. Right. And so I think that fearlessness combined with, I'm one of those guys when shit hits the fan, like I'm at my best. Like if I'm backed into a corner, like I'm better than I am just starting out, unscathed at the beginning of a fight. And it's just, I think there's that instinct, that killer instinct that kicks in. So it's kind of all over the place. And I don't think I've taken necessarily the exact same parallel that a lot of people have coming out of it. I got out of the military just simply because I knew I could make more money and I knew I could accomplish more. I
That's
went
like
to
a
work for.
common thing, right? Like a lot of dudes go in, or I say dudes, right? What I'm not disqualifying y'all. Don't fucking cancel me over here. I'm just saying dudes is in like people, right? Men and
Right.
women and whatever else the fuck you want to call yourself. You can join the military, and when you get out, a lot of people are kind of looking for something to do. Like I see a lot of people go into the trades. I see a lot of people go into, retail sales or something in that avenue. I see a lot of people go into the medical field, right? Coming out, and law enforcement. I don't see a whole lot of them except for tobacco, beard products, and fucking coffee, right? I don't see a lot of veterans jumping out and being like, hey, fuck, I'm going to open up an HVAC business, right? Or hey, I'm going to open up a software company. Um, what kind of, like, do you know any program or any sort of just a place where somebody in that situation can go to help maybe become a little more inspired about the opportunities for veterans specifically?
I love that you brought that up. One of the things I love most about what the organization that myself and my partner have formed
Okay.
is twofold. One, obviously, is business related, but the second is nonprofit. We both have a passion for helping vets and first responders, emergency management guys that are transitioning,
Hmm.
help with a few things. Number one,
Okay.
obviously, everybody knows PTSD, trauma and related incidents really do hinder good people from making strides in that department. But
Yeah.
second, it's a community thing. We are still in the forming stages of this nonprofit, but the intent behind it is to create an environment, a community where these guys can come and not only receive, well, it's spiritual mentorship or therapeutic style mental help, but also entrepreneurial help. And just like I said before, guys coming out of the military are in my opinion, they're primed, but there's a window of time before those habits start to melt away, before
Dude,
that
that is awesome.
motivation melts away.
I
So
had
what
no
we're
fucking
trying,
idea.
yeah,
I'm
I had to
legitimate. No,
share.
legitimately,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay,
That was
so a
a
lot of
good setup, but yeah.
dude, on sometimes on podcasts, people will like bait shit, in
Yeah.
conversations and stuff. And I've been known to bait an introduction a time or two, right? It's just a good way to introduce somebody into the show. But I had no fucking idea that you had a non. So you guys have a not for profit organization.
Correct.
I don't know what happened there. You guys have a not for profit organization. 1 second.
Very good. Everybody listening, the grid in San Antonio is getting crappier by the day, so maybe power went out.
One second, guys. Hold on. Jesus fucking Christ.
I wish I had some jokes I could tell to fill the time, but I'm not very funny.
I sure wish you could tell some right now. This is fucking horrible. What kind of
Hey,
goddamn,
sometimes you just got to roll with it.
what kind of fucking hood rat ass show is this?
There you
Oh,
are.
fuck. What do you know? Look at that. This is the only time I wish that I had a corporate sponsor, so I'd have somebody to blame for this kind of dumb shit. You know what I mean? If I had somebody like Tideland Financial, right? If I could get Tideland Consulting to pay for my show, then I could cuss them out for this, but they don't do that. It's my buddy owns that business right there. I'm sorry about that, guys. Y'all don't fucking cancel me. Stop. Don't go nowhere else, right? The show will go on. Sorry about that. But at least y'all can't tell that I'm wearing my fucking basketball shorts right now, so that's cool, right?
Oh yeah, I
I
mean
get to do the
nobody
show on
knows
my
whether I have
podcast.
pants on either. So
I'm telling you, listen, that's the first time that's ever fucking happened, and I even have the shit plugged into a camera. But that's the fucking beautiful thing about doing this crap live, right?
yeah,
Uh, oh.
there we go.
All right, Tom. So we were talking about the not for profit. We were
Yep.
having a conversation about all you're doing with that. I had no fucking idea that was something that you're doing, which I think is super fucking badass, by the way. That
There
that
is
kind of
one element I want to make sure we touch, because
okay.
that was the important part.
Yeah.
Was one of the passions of mine is, we've been a part of these different mastermind groups and networking groups, and the Apex, the Artes, and all that stuff. And I think those are fantastic groups. But the vision I have is to create and advertise a program where people who are separating from first responder jobs, military, what have you, can apply for this. And essentially what we'll do is we will root through those, and we'll pick a number of applicants. And it's not a situation where they pay to play. We actually sponsor them, and we fly them out for a week, and we put them through a course of, here's how to get your shit together. Here's how to get a business organized. Here's how to pick your demographic. Here's how to pick what service or product you're going to do. And then we workshop it. We help get them started. And then we assign mentors to those people as they go. And the fee for that is only that once we get those guys to a place where they are now in a position to give back, that they actually go recruit more people, root through those applications, and then pay it forward with the same kind of event with their network. So my goal here is to create a movement in terms of providing an exponent to the people we invest in.
Yeah.
And I think that there's no better way for us to serve those people who have served us than to invest back into them and provide them an opportunity that's guided, that's based on, solid values and good practices. And so that's ultimately the goal for that, as well as just building community.
So let me ask you a question, kind of something side comment. That that like belief system, right? The want to serve somebody else. Okay. You did your time in the service. Thank you for your service. You did that shit. That's done. It's over, right? You're moving on in life, but you're still finding another way to serve your brothers and your sisters, right? Like your family, your community. That is not something that a lot of people do after they've given 7 or 8 years of their fucking life. You know what I mean? To the military. They don't look to do that. And that, I think that's in today's climate, right? I'm just going to say in today's climate, that's kind of something that I see is missing in a lot of places, right? That where humans can have compassion for other people and want to help them, but at the same time, hold them to the same fucking standard that needs to exist in order for them to get there, despite whatever their fucking feelings may have to do with how they feel, right? Like that's something that I've learned in business. And I get a lot of times people are like, hey, have you ever, were you ever a cop, and da 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 da, and Sergeant Taggart would have been the coolest fucking name, and blah blah blah, right? But I have a belief that there has to be a fucking line somewhere in a lot of places, and that I don't think everything is gray and shades of gray. I think you either do shit or you don't do shit. You either
Amen.
accomplish something or you don't accomplish something. You either believe in something or you don't fucking believe in it, right? Like morals and standards. Let's touch on that for a second. It drives me insane the amount of people that we see it on like Sean Whalen's posts and stuff. He talks about this stuff a lot of times where these celebrities and these people, right, these influencers will talk about core values and beliefs and da 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 da. And it's like, hey, in San Antonio, we live in a small town, right? Like these people talk about them cheating on their girlfriends and stuff like that. And and so you're like, man, with this fucking your integrity didn't mean shit. You fired that last sales rep that you had and you kept all his commissions. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Man,
and now
that's the
you're
tip
on
of the
fucking
iceberg.
YouTube talking about fucking, morals and values. But this comes from somewhere in life,
Mhm.
right? Like this attitude, this belief system, this desire to want to do something better for the people around you. What brought that into your life?
Best way I can answer that is to say that I would say like the first good half, maybe more than half of my life, I was a pretty big asshole, and I didn't treat people the way they deserve to be treated. I didn't respect people to the degree that they deserved,
Mm,
um, and and I think it had a lot to do with some spiritual experiences. It had a lot to do with um, me making it out of things that I probably shouldn't have. As some
yeah.
people might say, a lot of mercy, a lot of grace that I was shown in my life that I finally woke up to and said, you know what? Like, what gets me out of bed every day is the idea that I could do one thing to help somebody's life be better.
Mm,
And now I'm absolutely grateful, but now it's every day I get to go and I help many people make their lives better,
okay.
and in turn their families better, their employees better, and it's a trickle down effect. And I've realized there's a terrible political climate that exists, and everybody's always like, oh, this person, you talk about, don't cancel, right? And it's like
Yeah.
that's there because we're at this point in society where we all got it so good that we're just changing laws to appease, not to really make a change, but to just address whatever demographic they need to swing a state. Or
Mm,
nobody really does anything from the goodness of their heart as opposed to what it benefits them. And
okay.
so it just became a point where I said, I want to be an example. And I'm not perfect, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that I've done in my life that I'm not proud of, but
Yeah.
I also have to recognize that it's those things and those experiences that shaped me. Those were forming elements. You know,
Yeah.
I have to give credit to all the people who have poured into me, who all the people who spent time with me, that bit by bit that broke me down, not in a negative sense, but broke things down to levels that I could understand, the things that mattered to me. And loss is a great thing. Pain. I had a friend who used to say, we're all built by pain. Pain is what drives us to make a change.
Mm,
And what pains me more than anything right now is seeing people taken advantage of. Entrepreneurs that are starting a business, they have good intent, they have a great service, they have a great attitude, and they go hire a marketing agency or they go hire a consultant. They do this stuff. They dump all their savings. They take a loan out. They max out their credit card so they can do this stuff. And I wind up with jack squat. And I just got to a point where I said, you know what? I'm gonna go and I'm gonna undercut every single one of them. I'm gonna provide better service. I'm gonna go above and beyond. Hell, I'm gonna do some free shit for people.
fuck your
And
profit margin.
and that's the thing is that, like,
No, no, I'm
you
saying
know
I'm
what
saying I'm
happened?
saying you're to
Yeah.
your competition, right?
No, that's what I'm
Because it's
saying.
gonna force them to do one of two things. When you disrupt the market like that, now we're talking like business strategy here. When you come in and you try to disrupt the market like that, you force your competitor to do one of two things: either cut their own throat with their own profit, right? Or find a new and creative way to establish more value than what you're providing at the same fucking price point.
And then what happens with that?
And
The consumer
mm,
wins. The
yeah,
consumer wins.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so like and I see it a lot of times in roofing, right? Like here in San Antonio, we've got a couple of roofing companies that have
Just
the lion's share of public branding and marketing available. You cannot purchase a fucking billboard if you're a roofing company without going through one of two local outdoor marketing agencies, right?
right.
And they're huge agencies. So, but right now, even the digital ones, right?
Mhm.
The fucking digital billboards, unless you want that shit showing at 3:43 a.m. for 66 seconds across an hour, it's going to cost you like 7 grand,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Just for one fucking billboard, bro.
And
For
that's not
one
even
billboard.
including the build price. I mean, a lot of people don't realize
No.
you got actually have to print the banner, have it put
Yeah.
up. There's a cost for that, and then you have a minimum amount of time you got to run
Yeah,
it.
that it has to run up there and you're locked in for this stuff. But there are companies that have all of those things like just lock and key. And what that does, the strength that they have in taking positions like that with their marketing, number one, hats off to them. If I had a shit ton of millions of dollars, I'd do the exact same thing, right? It's not stupid by any means necessary. What it does is it puts me in a position where I can't afford to market at that same
Right.
time or in that same place because
Right.
they drive up the demand for it and they can dictate the market. So we as businesses have to find new and creative ways to disrupt the market with our advertising.
Mhm.
And what happens, especially with roofers, is we hire fucking shitty marketing companies, overpromise and underdeliver, dude, right? Or not
That's a part
qualified
of
to even
my
be marketing companies. Turns out there's been a whole bunch of fucking Instagram coaches running around claiming that they're marketing experts, right? Running marketing agencies and ain't fucking advertised shit on they don't even on Craigslist. You know what I mean?
no.
If you've never posted something on Craigslist, I don't think you're old enough. I don't know. That's just it's weird for me, dude.
You're hitting a soft spot, man. This is something that I think as of late you've probably seen a lot of, but to that point though, I've made it almost a mission of mine to find ways to beat people at their own game. You're talking about
Mm,
these bigger guys, right?
yeah.
And maybe you can't get that billboard, but what I can do is with skills that I have in other areas like digital ads and stuff like that,
Mm,
I can find the gaps where these people are just grazing over this stuff, where I find something that will leapfrog over theirs or reuse the same thing they're marketing at
right.
and beat them at it. And so that's what I love. Is I love a challenge. I love it when somebody comes and says like I can't grab any more market share, because then it's like, dude, I guarantee you there are 100 different ways that you could
Right.
totally eat up that market. And by doing a good job and sustaining that, they can put up all the billboards they want, but it's only a matter of time until the negative reviews pile up or word gets out, right? Just like you
Yeah.
said, it's a small town, word gets out fast. If you're a piece of shit, you're gonna get outed eventually.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of helping people either hang on long enough to outlast them or finding ways to beat them at their own game. And nothing makes me happier than to kind of sit back and laugh when that happens.
I had a conversation. I was out door knocking, right? Um, and I knocked this gentleman's door, and I was dealing with his wife, the lady of the home, the wife. She came out at first. Her and I had a conversation. She made it a really good point to let me know that she was a real estate agent and she was all, she had experience as a flipper and all these other things. And I'm like, I'm just a roofing contractor. You know what I mean? Like, what do I know, right? and So we get into this conversation with her and we start talking about things. And then I happened to mention, um, I mentioned my CRM system and I
Mm,
described it as a Facebook for my customers. And she was like, "Oh, really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And that piqued her interest. So she introduced me to her husband, who happens to be the CFO for a very large property management company here in
mm,
Texas, right? They
okay.
do a lot of apartment complexes. And he was thoroughly impressed that a fucking roofing contractor was using systems and processes and a software to manage that stuff. And he's like, "So you mean, you guys don't scan and email, carbon copy forms?" And I'm like, we have them, but I mean, it just makes more sense to do it this way, right? And so impressed that it helped bring an additional layer of possible business with us, right? As the homeowner and the contractor. And it was, I feel like it was a result of us implementing systems and processes and being able to communicate that, because that's not a lot of stuff. Even my large competitors, right? Most of the people that I look at or I aspire to have those types of things in place in their business. Most of the people that I fucking look at, and I'm like, the business owners that I want to, they know what EOS is, right? They've probably at least listened to Traction once or twice on Audible. And all that to say this, I think a lot of businesses that get involved is first year roofing companies. We'll just talk about that because that's what the fuck I know. First year roofing companies get in, they don't have systems and processes. They're looking to expand. The first thing they do is they say lead generation. I need to get with a marketing person. I need to run some ads, right? I need to do this. How dangerous is it for a company with a fucked up foundation to pump 100 jobs inside of it instantaneously like that? How big of a fucking nightmare scenario is that for an organization?
Well, you got to look at it this way. A CRM is a tool, just like a hammer, just like a vehicle is if you have a fleet, just like a phone if you're a salesperson. It's not what tool you have, it's how you use it. It's all about the performance in use of that. So what I always tell my clients, and one of the first things I do when I sit down in front of a CRM client, is we document their current process. And if they don't have one, well, it's a lesson. And we sit down and we dial up their process exactly as it is, not as it should be, but as it is. And then we go through, it's part of a Six Sigma application called Lean Event. And what that means is we lean out your process. We identify all your resources, all your tools, all your personnel, how they're interoperating, where there's overlap, where's there gaps, where's the duplicity in things where people are doing things they shouldn't be. And then we optimize that process. And until that process is optimized, I'm not going to design any automations. I'm not going to say you need to start reaching out to people. I'm not going to say any of that stuff, because it doesn't make any sense to take something that isn't, repeatable in a good way to, just supplement it. So process without processes, without SOPs, how are you going to scale in terms of growing your employee base? How are you going to train people? How are you going to measure the progress that you're making? I mean, those are all things that the tools afford you. But again, if you don't have that, intellectual capital, so to speak, then you kind of have no business in talking about, oh, I'm ready to expand.
Then why? So how come so many fucking first year business owners think they can do this shit just on a wing and a prayer? Like, if everybody around them that is doing the shit that they want to do is telling them, hey, you need to revisit this area inside of your business and make sure that it is fucking built, right? Like it has 4 fucking walls and a roof and it's good to go. This is what I feel. It's not just the foundation, but it's the framework of the fucking business.
Exactly. That's
right.
What it is.
It is it's the skeleton that the fucking business is built around. And I think that this one particular thing when we're talking about systems and processes is so far overlooked because people just don't know any better.
I think it's partly that, and I think it's partly ego. I think that there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I can do that, or, oh, I know how to make this work. It's kind of like I relate it to jujitsu. Like I've been a bigger dude for a long time. When I first got into jujitsu, I was in the Marine Corps. And I was a stronger guy than most. But what I realized real quick is you can only muscle your way around so long before you run out of juice. And the guys that finesse and have been conserving their energy are going to wrap you up, right? And I just think that's a great analogy, because you can only will your way so far before you have to have something to fall back on. And the thing I think that processes provide you with is that thing to fall back on. You have to have something that's repeatable and produces the outcome you desire. I mean, I could go tomorrow and probably start door knocking and maybe land a few jobs, doing landscaping or roofing or whatever, or outsource it But again, unless I know everything I'm looking for, unless I have everything identified, unless I know
Right.
what to expect, and I have some experience knowing this is what tends to happen, these are the trends, these are that, then I might be able to build up some business, but pretty soon I'm going to eat up that cash flow, paying myself, or whatever have you. It's just, unless you have processes and systems, you're destined to fail. I would wager to say that most of the people who, the small businesses, they say, most don't last 5 years. I would say
Mm.
most don't last one, because you either have that stuff in place or you don't. Now, yeah, a
Right.
smart person would say, "Hey, Dave, I'm thinking about starting a roofing business. I know you're a competitor, but what's made you successful? Of all things, what's important?" And then there has to be
Mm.
that willingness to be a student, in a sense. If you
Yeah.
can't be both the follower and the leader, and in a lot of cases be the follower first, then you're not going to know what to do to lead. I mean, that's not an inherent
Right.
quality. Some people are natural leaders, but again, what your point saying is just the blind leading the blind. You're
That's a
setting a
fucking I believe leadership is a goddamn skill, bro. It's a
it is.
perishable skill. 100%. There are I was having a conversation with somebody and we were discussing I think it was my buddy Cody Klein. I can't remember if that's who it was, but we had a conversation about sales. Nope, maybe it was Doug Mitchell. We were
Ah,
having a conversation about sales leaders, and we discussed why some sales leaders do this crooked shit where they fire their sales guys and they take their overrides and fucking lock people out of their CRMs and stuff. And he said, you ever heard the phrase hurt people? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, it's kind of like that. And I stopped and I thought about it and I said, well, it's like hurt leaders hurt leaders.
mm,
And what I mean is like when they've been burned themselves, number one, now they know that they can do it. Right. Like
yeah.
when you've been fucked over, then you know exactly how it happened. You've thought about it, and now you could repeat that process should you ever like to. Number two, now it's a part of especially if the company that you were in, if it's a part of their culture, it becomes a part of your culture. And so this behavior or this ability to resort to this behavior is now inside of you, and you choose to bring it out. It fucks up things, and then the person that could have become a good fucking leader is now hurt ahead of
Mm-hmm,
the fold, right? Like
mm-hmm.
you have fucking, it's kind of like, your kid, right? You yell and you argue in the house with your kid, you're going to fuck your kid up. You know what I mean? And,
Right,
and you're going to
right.
hurt the ability for that kid to grow up and be a strong emotional asset,
Mm-hmm,
you know? And so I think a lot of times we have that same, man, we have that same shit when it comes to leadership, especially in business, and in sales, it's a fucking, I always tell people that come into my company, one of the first conversations I have with them is I'm going to spend more time with you talking about personal development than I am going to be talking about roofing, because I can teach anybody how to sell a fucking roof if you'll just follow the steps. But I have to now also teach you how to be an extremely good fucking person as well.
mm.
And that's
That
going to
culture
take
is
me,
so
that's
important.
so much harder. Oh my God.
But you think about it, you ever
Ugh.
know the analogy, right? If you got a rotten piece of fruit and you put a brand, like a ripe piece of fruit next to it,
Yeah.
that ripe piece of fruit is going to grow mold almost by default, sitting right next to it, right?
Do you know where that analogy comes from?
Other than science, no.
Okay, so other than science, so there's back in, I think it was the Roman times. The Roman times, if you were accused and found guilty of murder, sometimes what they would do is take the body of the corpse and they would tie it to you. So these people would have to carry the bodies, this rotting flesh, and over time, the rotting flesh of the corpse that was strapped to them would start to rot their flesh as well. And it was
Mm.
really fucking, it was really bad. It was really bad, some really weird shit. But there's also a saying somewhere that has something to do with that, like the
Well, I would say
carrying.
there's a bunch of applications. I mean, you're the average of the people you spend your time with. You're,
Yeah,
you're, all those things. There's so many applications for that, but I think it's true. I love the hurt people part, but I think it really, what it is that if you don't have a strong enough um, intestinal fortitude, like built into you, if you don't have enough conviction to stand up for what you know is right, whether,
yeah,
because everybody can blame, well, oh, I don't know right from wrong. Bullshit. Like, there's a very, very, very easily acquired book, not to get spiritual, but called the Bible. Open it up and read a proverb, man. It's
Pretty
not
easy.
difficult. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's, we know, I mean, and if that's not enough, go look at the laws that are written. I mean, it's spelled out from you. Not all of us read the law books, but at the end of
It's
the day,
it's not fucking hard to understand what's morally right and what's morally wrong. It's really fucking not, dude.
it's just that even like with your company, with my company, one of the first things we always talk about is, it's really not even a, hey, let's talk about core values conversation. It's like, let's get on the phone and get to know each other. Or if it's somebody in person, I'm going to spend some time with you. And I'm on tangent for a quick second. I was having a conversation the other day about relationships, and in particular, like the honeymoon phase of a new relationship or the honeymoon phase of business. I have a lot of similarities. It's my theory that when you meet somebody, let's say this is somebody you start dating, right? You tend to put on like I don't want to say a face, but it's you kind of tend to like let certain things slide that you wouldn't usually let slide, right? Yeah. And so you can only fake that for so long before you begin to default back to who you are, what you like. It's like, you could, I hate to use this one, but it's like when you first start dating somebody and, maybe you got to go blow up a toilet, like you're going to go and you're going to shut the door on the other side of the house, turn the fan on, all this stuff. Right. But when you finally start leaving the door open and yelling at them to come in and talk to you while you're, dropping that load, that's the real environment. Right. So I want to get to that point so I can really get to know what somebody's about, not just what they're saying. I want to know who you are. Are you a family person? Don't tell me you're a family person. I'm going to hear it from the way you talk about your family. I'm going to hear it from the things that you spend your time doing. So I totally understand what you're saying. It's and plus you don't want somebody who's okay just staying the way they are. Comfortability is the enemy, and discomfort is necessary for growth. And if you're not uncomfortable, then you got to fucking do something about it, man. Like it's not complicated. Move forward. And I heard it said this way: the definition of doing nothing or being stationary is dead, and the definition of moving and taking action on something is living. So by default in that statement, if you are moving and you are pushing and you are doing things, you are growing, you are actually living. Whereas if you are just resting in place or not seeking, greater personal development, I think it was Francis Bacon that said, to have a bunch of knowledge and not apply it might as well be death. And I really believe that. I mean, you've got to have people around you that are not only going to push you, but are going to push themselves, because that's the culture of people you want to be around. So,
well, you ain't fucking kidding. What? So let me ask you this. Culture, we both agree, culture is extremely important. And like you said at the beginning, you don't have a conversation about core values. And that's probably like the third conversation that I have with people. It is an extremely important one, because if we're abiding by the core values, then we should be executing on all the SOPs, right? Like it is what it fucking is. And if we're abiding by the core values, then we're constantly learning. We're looking for solutions, not problems, right? We're doing all these things in alignment with our core values. And I get into a big conversation a lot of times where I'm like, how do people find companies with core value? And I don't want to have the same fucking conversation that I had yesterday. So I want we know it's important. We have this conversation all the time where we tell people that core values are important to a company. And I don't think enough people spend time talking about how to get their employees on the same fucking page. Right? Because it's easy to establish core values. I can print these shits out. I can put them on the fucking wall behind me and tell everybody, here's the core values, guys. Here's what we do all day long, day in and day out. But I have to find a way to make it to fucking mean something to the people that are inside of my organization. And that a lot of times as the leader is the hardest part, man. It is very easy for me to show people, if you do this, you will get this. Here are the steps in between. Take these steps in between. The hardest part about leadership is getting people to wake up and say, I'm fucking on it. right? Like
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
on it today. And that is, I just want my team to fucking wake up and say that shit. And sometimes you want it more for them than they do.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's that can be discouraging. So if I'm trying to help, my team or any team, right? If I'm trying to help any fucking team get their team to buy into the SOPs, because as a consulting agency, how do you do that?
Yeah. Number one is you have to allow everybody to have a contribution to it,
Mm.
right? There's always going to be a scenario. It's not just, my corporate consulting days were probably some of the harder ones because I was cutting my teeth in it learning this stuff. Relationships are the foundation. You're just saying, I spend time with these people, getting to know them and focusing on personal development because you're assessing whether that person has it in them to be the person you need them to be in your organization. More so, alignment's important, but who they are going to default to, circling back to what I was saying before, is what you're going to get. Now, you can help people grow, and everybody knows you're not going to get the same kind of ownership out of an employee than you yourself have as the owner.
100%. For
But
sure.
I think that as leaders, it's not necessarily our responsibility to just be the flag bearer. We have to be the example. Take Tim Duncan, for example, right? They always talked about Tim Duncan took some of the harshest criticism from the coaches. And because he took it, it allowed everyone else to fall in line and be like, well, if this guy's doing it, then we might as well doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys in leadership positions say this, but do this. And that's where you're going to lose a lot of that. So I think that you always start with a certain level of respect. But in terms of, getting buy-in from people, you have to be willing to spend the time with them to figure out what it is that you don't know that they don't know, or you don't know that they know. You have to spend, the relationship is just the foundation. If I look at it my way, is I wouldn't do business with anybody if if I felt like I needed a contract to cover my ass. I'm probably not going to do business with you, because even if I do put a contract in place, you're probably not going to follow through on it anyway, right? So granted, that's not to say don't put the paperwork in place. I'm just saying that I approach it from that perspective. If I wouldn't do business with you without a contract, then
Trust.
I probably wouldn't do business with you there, right? So that's an
Yeah.
element, trust, right? But I also think, and I'll keep this brief, I have three kind of tenets that I look at from a perspective of that. I call it training, doctrine, and discipline, right? Because you have to understand there are different elements that what may contribute to a certain outcome. So the training aspect of it is, knowing how to perform the duties to which you're assigned. That's pretty plain and simple, but that's on the owner, that's on the employer. There's also doctrine, which again is, how do we operate within the culture? What is the standard of culture? Do they understand what's expected of them in those terms? And then you have the discipline aspect, which is sort of more on that individual. How are they responding to that environment you put them in? Have you provided them? So when I'm looking at these situations and problems arise, it allows me sort of like a rubric from which to grade myself and them. So the training and the doctrine, those are on me. If that person's not performing well in their job, is it because I didn't provide the adequate training? Well, if I know I provided the adequate training, I know that box is checked. Doctrine,
Jocko
do
said
they
it's
know
always your fault. So
well, that's what I'm saying, but I think it's 2/3 your fault, right? But the third is kind of reflects back on you anyway. But
sometimes we have to be realistic and understand that, hey, we're working with a human being that's walking in our door as an incomplete person that we need them to be, and we've got some fucking work to do.
yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
If you think somebody's just going to walk in and do the thing that you want them to do, I mean,
do you think, for an
happening.
instance, that any of my employees think that I walked into business ownership as a fucking complete human being? You know what I'm saying? Every one of, so I happen to know for a fact, number one, my wife, I love her to death, right? I love her to death. We were talking about that. I don't give her enough credit. She walked into my entire life knowing that I was an incomplete motherfucker. You know what I mean? But she was and I'll be real, this is real shit right now. She was the first person that I've ever had a serious intimate relationship with that believed in me more than I believed in myself. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I could fucking do this every day. Right.
Mm.
Like I can, and it, when people ask me about, some of the things that contributed to me, I tell them, you will be amazed at what you're capable of doing when you change the shit that you allow to go into your life and in your head and all these other things. And I changed that, and just the simple result of being around somebody who believed in me, right? Who fucking spoke these important things over to me, dude, telling me that I was capable of doing these things, that she saw a great man, right? Like all these, first of all, it's my fucking love language. Okay. Words of affirmation is my shit, you know?
Yeah.
And she found a way to speak that to me. And so it empowers me to do something better. I have opportunities inside of my business where I have, let's call it junior leadership. And I have the ability to say to my senior project manager, Garrett, I taught this guy years ago how to get into roofing. He stayed with the company that I left, right? 2 years later, I go into business and he's the first guy that comes. Boom, right? He's like, dude, I believe in you. I'm bought in. It is what it is. And then we've got 3 or 4 more guys like that are just 100%. This is gang related shit to them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it is, they are about it. And, and so inside of our culture, it's stupid important for us to empower those guys. But also I'm seeing that now I have people that are underneath me that are becoming leaders inside of my organization. Right. And that is a new thing for me because I'm like, I didn't intentionally create this. This is just a byproduct of pouring into fucking people like
Isn't that wonderful though?
dude,
Isn't
he's
that
now
awesome?
he's on the phone with the sales guys and he's like, hey man, here's what I would do over here in this situation. And I'm like, hey, where are you doing today? And he's like, I'm going over to this city to help back up this sales guy over here on this thing. And I'm like, well, fucking all right then, dog. Like,
It's
okay,
amazing. It's amazing. And I think that but it really does come down to the example you set and the standards from which you do not compromise. And there's people who are going to jive with that and there's people who aren't. And that's a natural progression of things. You're going to have people that don't work out and that's fine. You got to understand that. But when you start to retain people like that and they start to grow, it's a testament to not just you as a leader, but the culture that you've built and the environment that you've created for these people that make them want to be better.
Do you feel like your culture is the ultimate thermometer of like whether people pass or fail the fucking the jive test? The vibe, we call it the vibe check, right? Like, do they pass the vibe check? I look at people, then they come into the organization, and I'm like, you're probably not going to understand what core values are today. This is day one. But let me explain it to them, and then let me demonstrate them to you through the people inside of the organization. And I've found that some people can either do it or some people can't. And I've allowed
Mhm.
the core values to kind of be the let's call it the scales, right? Do you feel like, is that fair? Is that fucked up of me
I
to do
think
that shit?
no, not at all. Look, I mean, that's the beauty of being a business owner in the first right is, as bad as it sounds, it is your way. So I don't think that that's an issue. I think that whether you look at it like it's core values or you look at it like it's alignment, I think that for me, we can call it 100 different things, but for me, I've always looked at it like alignment. It's do your aspirations align with the direction this company is heading? Is the way that you conduct yourself as a human being the way that we want somebody to be conducting themselves wearing our shirt with our logo on it?
Word.
And more so, are they interested in being part of this as more than just a job? Is this something that it's a family that I come into? And it's evident. We talked about Andy Frisell a little bit. You can walk into the First Form warehouse and you see and you feel
I've
all
fucking been
these.
in there, dude.
Right.
I've
That's what I'm
I've
saying.
been in there. I've been in there. Von Kohler, this was years ago, gave me a
Yeah.
tour of the old facility, right? And
Yeah.
he was like, Andy was busy doing some shit. And we go into the warehouse, and every single motherfucker in that warehouse was about their business, dude. Like nobody was fucking off. As a matter of fact, they had 4 dudes in a line because it was and I asked him, I was like, why do they sweep the floor like this? And he was like, it's faster. They have a line of people with push brooms and they the whole shot. And I was like, oh fuck, they're done.
Yep.
Right.
But that's a
And
great, I mean, that's a lesson in teamwork. That's a lesson in leadership. That's a lesson in taking pride in your work. It's
culture.
Yeah, that's all it is.
It's fucking absolute culture, man. And that's I feel like this is, that first of all, the MFCEO project and all that stuff, from I'm dating myself now. That stuff played a really important role in like me becoming what I felt like was a better father and a better partner, a better entrepreneur at the time, right? And I think that a lot of times people get into the systems and the processes and developing a company and stuff like that, and they just fuck off on core values entirely too much, and it causes what I think could have been a lot of really good companies a lot of really big problems, right?
Yeah.
Like I've as a consultant, I've had the opportunity to talk with companies and sales managers and corporations, and sometimes the conversations that I have with business owners in the roofing space or even in sales is just about toxic culture. And I'm like, that's a fucking hard thing to fix, dude, because you've got to deal with people.
Yeah, and
It's not.
I tell this all the time. You asked earlier about, how do you deal with people who are skeptical or not buying in or things like that, right? And I tell people, like, I'm in a fortunate position to not have to take on every client that comes my way, and that's neither here nor there. But the idea of it is that, like, even my clients to this point, I have to have alignment with my clients. If I don't believe in what they're about and what they're doing, why am I going to serve somebody who is selfish? I want to serve somebody. I want to empower somebody. I want to give somebody else an
If
excellent.
Pfizer calls you right now, it's like, yo,
they can kiss my ass. We could go down that line. There's a lot of those, but
whole
that's my
show's
point.
getting unplugged now. Fucking whole show's getting unplugged.
I'm just saying, like, it has to be core values aren't just under your roof. They got to be under their roof. They got to be under all of our roofs. Like, you can't claim to be somebody of uncompromising standard and take on shitbag clients. You can't be, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't take on somebody, and I tell them this all the time. It's easy. I'm gonna say it's easy, but it's a challenge I'm willing to take on if there are doubters. If there are people who are like, I'm not sure about this, or I'm averse to change, or I've been here so long, why are we changing it? Okay. What I cannot deal with and will not deal with is that ego component. If it's like, well, we're going to do this because I'm the boss and I say, well, I'm not going to get anywhere with you anyway. And you clearly don't want to change anything. All you care about your bottom line. We're not in alignment. Because if you make these changes, it's going to affect your bottom line. You're just trying to control things. I'm not about that. I could give a crap about credit. I could give a crap about, like, having my name or my face on anything. I really, like, even when we started forming this, and my partner was like, you're gonna have to start doing podcasts. I'm like, dude, I don't want to be the face of this.
I don't want it to be the fucking Tom show.
Right. And
I have people, some of the weirdest times, dude. I have questions and comments like, there's a guy in the roofing industry that everybody takes their dirty laundry to, and he makes fucking YouTube videos about it, right? Like, and a lot of times I have people approach me with situations, and they're telling me that they're getting screwed from this company or whatever, and what can I do about it, because I have some following on Facebook, social media. And I always tell people, like, listen, I'm not roofing's Batman. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm here for. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the hero that y'all need. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you about yourself. It's us and them. It's sink or swim. You're either fucked or you're doing fucking. I mean, not literally, but
no, but
right,
it's true.
It's you're either going to adapt and acquire the skills that are necessary to fucking win, right? Or you're going to be stuck with, they call it, the force of average. You're fucked middle of the road, and that's. I call it
you're either going to be the victor or the victim. And that's just a societal thing right now, is if you were not successful, or if something didn't work out, that it's somebody else's fault, and you were just dealt a bad set of cards. And look,
No.
I get it. Disaster can strike. Things can happen. But I know more people having gotten into the industry or the space of helping people that, and you know this just as well as I do, that you and only you are responsible for picking yourself up, putting yourself back on your 2 feet, and figuring it the fuck out. And it's
100%.
nobody else's responsibility. I see too many people. I see people jumping on here. And what's funny to me, and I see this stuff, is like, oh, somebody posts on social media. I had 2 new entrepreneurs today that DM'd me and said, I don't feel like I have enough information and I'm not comfortable moving forward at this time. And they're like, and then they went on to say, these people are stupid. They don't, they're afraid, they're this and that. And I'm like, bro, to be real, you probably either suck at sales or they can smell the bullshit for what you were selling from a mile away. Like,
Or
there's
you
number
couldn't answer
one.
a fucking question.
Well, that's my point. You
Yeah.
didn't. You just said, you claim you gave us all the information and they didn't read it. Then they don't fucking like you.
Right.
So like, so many people are so quick to be like, oh, well, I'm doing this righteous thing, and because this person didn't buy into it, it's them that's the problem. And you know what happens? They repeat the same shit over and over and over again. Like, there's some and half of these people, did you see them? We don't even know what the fuck they really do. They're just out there saying, hey, I 10x this business, or I help this business grow. And it's like
200 likes.
Right? No. One like.
One.
One like. And it's like, you're not seeing the correlation here?
Those are my favorite.
Dude, those are my favorite. So hard not to eat those guys for lunch. But we know what I found out is that the harder I work to help more people, the less of those guys will be around. So I just focus on making that. I know. It's really hard for me.
I get triggered, dude. I had a whole podcast. I got fucking sidetracked on a live podcast one time because a dude that didn't have a functioning website decided to tell me that I was doing things wrong with my business. And I'm like, dog, you know what I mean? You don't even have a website, bro. Like, that's level 1, day 1.
Let me tell you
know
this.
What I mean? What the fuck? Who
Crusaders,
doesn't? It's free.
Our business, we launched this specific business in February.
Yeah.
And for the last 2 weeks, I have had 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. back to back, no gaps, calls all day, word of mouth only. I'm not running ads. I'm not marketing. You know what I'm doing? I'm taking fucking care of people, and I'm following through on what I'm saying, and I'm doing people right. And I don't have to spend a minute telling people, hey, you should come use. Other people are doing that for me. And that's the way it's, in essence, I mean, it's obviously advertising has its place and all that stuff, but there's something to be said. And I've talked to a couple people that are like, hey, I've gotten to a point now where I've survived the last couple of years on word of mouth. Now I got to figure this stuff out. But you know what? Those guys are open to what I have to say. Hey, I've gotten to this point. I've been successful, but I realize I can't get past this spot unless I start doing some things differently. And they're humble about it. There's a level of humility required in order to grow.
I think that something that I wanted to kind of mention there, I heard you say that it was, the word of mouth. These people get by on word of mouth. I don't think enough people understand how important it is for your clients, right? Your previous clients to be your largest new client acquisition tool. Number one. And they're doing it. The reason why they're doing it is because they're afraid to ask for the referral because they know they did subpar shit. Right. And that's a lack of that's a lack
because I don't have to, I haven't asked a single client, hey, could you do this or that or anything? Right. It just happens.
It fucking happens.
If you do it right, like the right things happen. It's really
I get referrals in San Antonio from roofers in other states that call me and is like, hey, I got family in Texas. Can you go do their roof? And I'm like, bro, I know you could put this shit together on, a Facebook group if you had to. You could build this fucking roof, but you'd rather pay me the 23% gross profit and let me, okay, sure. I'll go take this one for you. But I think that's a result. A lot of people know where I stand on things. I'm very vocal about what I believe in and what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. And I think a lot of people find comfort in that because I'm consistent. I might be a fucking asshole, but I am consistently the same asshole every fucking time. Right. And that's reliable. And people hey, I know Dave's going to do this. I know he's going to think and feel this way. And that it helps me. Number one, helps me sleep at night. right?
I don't think it
Because of
makes you
just
an
creature
asshole,
habit.
though. I think people. I mean, for you and I, it's easier for us to just say, okay, I'm an asshole about this, but really, again, that's just a friction point in society from people being afraid to tell the truth.
So it's their problem. It's not
It
mine.
really
That's
is not your fucking problem. I
hell
mean,
yeah.
are you
No,
trying to lead them astray? No, you're trying to set them right. You're trying to hook them up, trying to correct them where they went off course. It's not your fault they went off course, but God bless you for stepping in and at least being willing to say, "Hey, you zigged when you should have zagged." I don't look at that as being an asshole. I think that there's tact, of course, that goes into some of that stuff. But
yeah,
dude, you're in roofing. You're not in fucking public affairs. So I don't think
no
it really
shit.
matters. I mean, I wouldn't love it if somebody came up to my door and knocked on my door, asked to do my roof with manicured hands and creamy, lotiony palms
For
and shit
sure.
like that. Like, I want to see some dirt in your fingernails. I want to see, that comfort that like you'd be just as happy if I tossed a bucket of red ink on you on the way out the door than if I said yes. Like, you're not there. It's not personal. You're doing a job and you're doing it to the best of your ability. I'm never going to hate on somebody like that. I might be like, hey, like no, and like hard no,
Yeah,
but I'm
I
still
don't
going to
believe
respect
you.
the hustle.
Right.
I'm still going to respect the hustle. Like,
I do that all the
I'll even
time. I
tell
get
people.
door knockers. I get door knockers at my house all the time trying to sell me carpet cleaning shit and stuff like that. And I'm like, bro, you took 3 objections to the face and then powered through them. Dudes are like, what do you mean objections? Right. And then I'm like, you didn't see the big ass roofing truck in the driveway. We get into a conversation about sales. No, I'm not buying your shit, but let's rap for a minute. Right.
Right.
Let me tell you how I would have gotten over this objection. And sometimes these dudes are like, bro, that's way more valuable than the $50 fucking check I would have gotten for shampooing your carpet, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, cool, I'm not going to spend money with you, but I'm going to give you some value exchange real quick. Tom, I listen, man. I appreciate the fucking value exchange that you've provided for us tonight. I know that we've gone a little bit over here tonight. But I've had such an honest, good fucking time connecting with you. I'm so glad that Matt fucking ran this down my throat, dude. Like, no homo, right? This is one of those things where Matt's like, bro, you have to fucking do this. And I'm like, okay, bro, I trust his guidance and I trust his advice. This is one of the, when I got involved with Apex, Matt was one of the first persons that I met and was like, let me introduce you to EOS. And I was like, I don't know what that is. Right. And he helped me figure out where it is that I want to be in business and how to figure out the fucking steps.
Yeah.
And so I've got a lot of respect when Matt makes a recommendation on something. And from fuck, man, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it, dude.
I appreciate it too. We
Tom,
could have gone for a long time, brother. We
I'm
could have gone
telling
a
you,
long time.
Tom,
I don't even
where
think we
can
talked
people
about
connect
business
with you?
stuff.
It's okay. No, everybody knows that we're going to talk about business at some point in time, but I think these
Yeah.
are the conversations that people
Yeah.
really need to fucking hear. We talked about Batman, right? Earlier. I'm not
Yeah.
roofing's Batman, but maybe maybe this is the conversation that people needed. I
No,
don't know.
and I love that. I love that.
Where can people holler at you? Where can they find you if they need to get in touch with you to find out what they can do to get involved with your organizations?
So right now, really the best way is by email. I've got intake forms and stuff, but we've got such a big backlog that I'd rather take on projects on a case-by-case basis. But my email is support@crusadersgp.com. I'll send that over to you, but I'll spell it SUPPORT at CRUSADERSGP.com. And just even introduce yourself. Just tell me who you are, even if it's something you're not interested in. I love to connect with people, especially people who you seem to have a great audience, and if there's anybody there, I'm not just out looking for money. I'm not hunting for that stuff. I genuinely love helping people, especially people that just they're doing everything they can and they need that little bit of extra thing. I would love to give that even for free. I would love to give that out to people. So you reach me there. You reach me on Facebook. I think you tagged me in this. And we can go from there. I appreciate it, man. I really think I actually can't wait for us to get together in person now and and probably talk all night. So
I
it's been a
really,
pleasure.
you know what? Check this out, dude. There is a small little boutique cigar shop that's up on
You
Highway
already got me.
46 outside of Bulverde, and it's a veteran-owned place. And I've been meaning to go. I asked him if I could film a podcast episode in his
Let's
VIP
go.
lounge. Dude, we're fucking going, bro.
I'm down. I'm down.
100% we're
I'm
going.
a cigar guy myself,
Okay.
so I love it.
We're doing it, dude. Okay,
All
we're
right.
gonna,
I love it.
I'm so fantastic. I'm so excited about this, Matt. Thank you very much, Matt. If you're watching the show, bro, I appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Beighley here on the show, guys. Thanks for being involved tonight, guys. Let me just recap with you here for a second, okay? Tom's a phenomenal human being, and he runs a phenomenal fucking company that's focused on helping create other fucking phenomenal companies and phenomenal human beings. So I'd highly encourage that you, if you can't get involved directly with Tom, I want you to figure out where the opportunity exists for you to get involved with people that are going to really support and empower you as an individual or an entrepreneur, because that's really what we're in the business of, is developing people, and people serve our customers when it comes to business. And so if we can make better people, we can make better business. And if we can make better business, then we can impact and create more better people. I am Dave, the motherfucking CEO here at Roofing Underground and A5 Roofing, your favorite roofer's favorite roofer. And I'll see you guys later, man. Yeah, I'll be good. Thanks so much for jamming with us tonight. Definitely appreciate it. I'm out.